something unexpected is happening at the top of Formula One. Just a few months ago, Red Bull was controlling the grid. Now they seem to be slipping, and fast. Christian Horner recently shared his perspective on what's going wrong, especially after what we witnessed in Austria. His explanation focused not only on the Red Bull camp, but also highlighted how McLaren's latest machine, the MCL39, is rewriting the rules of race, pace, and tire handling. The way things are shaping up, it's starting to feel like Red Bull has lost touch with its own creation, the RB21. While McLaren is making serious progress, Red Bull is stuck trying to figure out why their updates aren't showing up as actual performance on the track. Horner's comments aren't just technical. They hint at something deeper, a leadership problem, and perhaps the beginning of a fallout that could push Max Verstappen to look elsewhere. But is there enough time to fix things before it's too late? McLaren's transformation has raised eyebrows across the paddock. Their car is not just quick, it's smart with the tires. Back in 2022 and 2023, Red Bull was the one setting the benchmark for tire control. But now McLaren is taking it to another level. And that's what's bothering Horner. He couldn't ignore what happened in Austria. Oscar Piastri was glued to Lando Norris for multiple laps, from early in the race, while the car was still full of fuel, yet the tires showed barely any signs of wear. That kind of control isn't normal. It's what separates a good car from a championship contender. Meanwhile, other teams, including Ferrari, were struggling with overheating and had to back off just to keep things under control. Red Bull's race ended almost before it began. Verstappen was taken out on the opening lap, so there was no chance to see how he could have responded to McLaren's pace. But even if he had stayed in the race, Horner doesn't seem too hopeful. When asked, he pointed to McLaren's strength in long, high-speed corners and their ability to maintain balance, even under pressure. He gave a very blunt example, watching Oscar trail behind Lando so closely, lap after lap, without any major tire drop-off. According to him, this isn't something any other car on the grid can do right now. Most teams would suffer from understeer or front tire wear in that position, especially when running in the turbulent air of the car ahead, and that's where Red Bull's current issues stand out. With all the investment in simulations, development, and upgrades, their car still feels disconnected from what was expected. Horner openly admitted that McLaren's advantage is real and growing. That's the concern not just for Red Bull fans, but possibly for Max himself. There's another layer to this situation that's impossible to ignore. Red Bull's car isn't just underperforming, it's behaving like a machine designed for a different era. And with every race that passes, it becomes clearer that the departure of key technical figures like Adrian Newey and Jonathan Wheatley has left more than just a gap. It's left a vacuum. You can tell by how unstable the RB21 feels compared to its competitors. Even with constant upgrades, the car hasn't responded the way the team hoped. While Horner continues to stand by the team's approach, the reality on track is painting a very different picture. The car seems fast in theory, on paper, in simulations, but when it hits the circuit, it simply doesn't match up. That disconnect is exactly what McLaren has managed to avoid. Christian Horner himself hinted that McLaren has figured out something unique, especially when it comes to how the car behaves through long corners and under heavy fuel load. That's a zone where most cars begin to suffer. But McLaren stays solid, balanced, and efficient. Horner even remarked, half amused, half frustrated about how Oscar Piastri managed to stay just inches behind Norris without tearing up his tires. That level of control is a massive advantage in modern F1, where turbulent airflow and tire wear often break a car's rhythm. But it's not just about tires or pace, it's about confidence. When drivers feel their car is reliable through every section of a circuit, they start pushing beyond limits. And McLaren's recent one to finish on Red Bull's home turf wasn't just a win, it was a message. A clean, calculated performance, no chaos. No mistakes, just pure racing precision. For Horner, this isn't just a bad race weekend, it's a PR nightmare. The criticism is stacking up. Many are questioning whether his leadership is strong enough to guide Red Bull through this rough patch. Ever since Newey left, the aura around Red Bull has started to crack. They aren't feared the way they were last year, and without consistent performance, doubts naturally creep in both internally and externally, even within the paddock. There's chatter that the team's structural stability has taken a serious hit. The harmony that once allowed them to move as a unit seems to have faded, and now, despite throwing updates at the car, they're still nowhere near reclaiming the dominance they enjoyed during Max's title run. Max Verstappen's absence from the front in Austria wasn't just a one-off, it's part of a troubling trend. The way things are unfolding, the defending champion finds himself in a position he hasn't faced in years, watching others control the race, while he deals with a car that refuses to cooperate. That's why the current performance drop is more than just a technical issue. It's personal for Max. While Red Bull tries to keep the tone optimistic, those close to the situation know that Verstappen's patience is running thin. In fact, Christian Horner's public comments have started to sound more like damage control than confidence. He admitted that McLaren now enjoys a gap over the rest of the grid and that Red Bull needs to approach each race one step at a time. He even downplayed the idea of fighting for a championship this season. choosing instead to focus on short-term results. That's a huge shift from the dominant tone Red Bull had just a season ago. Back then, the conversation was about breaking records. Now, it's about survival. When asked about the next races, Silverstone, Spa, and Budapest, Horner could only say that they would take things race by race. There was no big talk, no promises, just hope that maybe things could turn around with time. But Formula One doesn't wait. And 61 points behind the leader in the driver's standings is a mountain, not a bump in the road. If you don't have a fast, reliable car at this stage, you're already on the back foot. And now Verstappen isn't just facing Norris, he's also got Piastri breathing down his neck. Even George Russell is closing in. Suddenly the title fight seems more like a distant idea than a realistic goal. And here's where it gets even more serious. Rumors are circulating that Verstappen may trigger a performance clause in his contract if things don't improve. A clause that could allow him to leave Red Bull earlier than planned. With the summer break approaching, some trusted sources in the paddock believe a big decision could come very soon. And if Max decides to go, there's little doubt where the blame will fall. All eyes will shift straight to Horner. Now, let's talk about what happens if Verstappen actually walks. Red Bull would lose not just the driver, but the one person keeping their title hopes alive. Without Max, their points tally would look dramatically different. The backup driver hasn't been able to bring in consistent results, and if Max activates his clause, the spotlight will burn even brighter on Horner's decisions over the past year. The cracks have already started to show. Internally, the team has been shaken ever since senior staff began to exit. With Adrian Newey gone and Jonathan Wheatley no longer part of day-to-day operations, the technical foundation that once defined Red Bull's strength has started to slip. The loss isn't just in knowledge, it's instability, trust, and leadership. And Verstappen has made it clear that without clear improvements, he sees no reason to stick around beyond 2026. He's also not alone. Other teams have already shown interest, with Toto, Wolff, and Mercedes being mentioned more than once. Publicly, Red Bull's leadership keeps insisting Max will stay. But behind the scenes, it's obvious they know the situation could shift quickly. When Helmut Marko was asked about the clause, his answer was calm, but far from convincing. He mentioned that Max is under contract until 2028 and that there's no current reason to leave. But even he acknowledged that performance-based clauses exist. Looking at the bigger picture, Red Bull is at a serious turning point. If the structure doesn't hold, if the technical direction isn't corrected, and if leadership continues to falter, then the dominance of the past will quickly become just a memory. And Christian Horner, for all his experience, may soon find himself on the wrong end of a management shake-up. There are even quiet rumors about Andrea Seidel being considered for a major role. Someone who could step in and rebuild the team from the ground up. While Seidel's stint at Audi didn't bring big results, he's still regarded as a smart, capable leader, and more importantly, he hasn't been part of the Red Bull power struggles that have torn the team apart recently. Looking ahead to 2025 and the new regulation era in 2026, things don't look easy for Red Bull. They're heading into a critical phase, where strong leadership and technical direction are everything. But if they enter it without Max, and without a steady hand at the top, the chances of staying competitive drop drastically. So, here's the big question. Can Red Bull fix the mess before it's too late? Or are they already slipping into a phase of slow decline? One thing is for sure, the next few months will tell us more than a full season ever could.